Ryan and Jim. We're here at the property in Sidney. We're going to start doing the inspection here. We're going to put together a few videos for you guys going over different conditions that we encounter with the home and how some things in the home function so you have a better idea. And we're going to actually start out with the septic system out back. I'll grab Ryan, one of the septic inspectors, and they're going to go over the septic for you real quick.
Hi, I'm Ryan Fornell with Advanced Leach Fields. Me and one of my other friends here are taking a peek at the septic system here at the property in Sidney on 20 Sunflower Lane. I'm going to give you a quick overview of what we found here. We'll also be sending you a report with pictures of everything that you need to know about this system, maintenance, locations, and things like that. The first thing I want to tell you about this system is as far as Maine septic systems go, and really as far as any septic system go, the septic system that you have on this property is about the most simple, passive, gravity-based, very basic system that you can have, which as far as septic systems go, when you have the right site conditions, this is the type of system that you want. It's easy to maintain, tough to screw up, and generally speaking, you'll get 30 to 40 years out of the system from installation date. You can get longer, you can get shorter. Those things sort of depend on how you treat the system. It's a two-step process. How this system works is all of the interior drains, laundry, toilets, sinks, everything that you use inside is going to drain out of one common drain and drain out about 20 feet and into a big concrete box called the septic tank. Our inspection process starts with that pipe that connects the house to the septic tank. We use a camera, a subsurface camera, to scope that pipe, looking for pitch obstructions, pipe type, so on. You have a Schedule 35 PVC plastic pipe that is pitched decently. We want to see proper pitch, which is basically a 1/4 inch per foot. We want to see the water leave that house and not stop moving until it hits the septic tank. This specific site, it's very common to have this. You have a little bit of a sag in the pipe just before the pipe enters into the septic tank. You can actually see right here, the last few feet, this is the beginning of the septic tank, and this is kind of the beginning of where that sag starts. So in the pipe that's draining into the septic tank for about 5 to 6 feet, you just have a little bit of water staying in that pipe. Anytime you have water that stays in the pipe under the perfect conditions, which would be no snow cover, no insulation barrier in the winter, and extremely cold temperatures multiple nights in a row, when you're not introducing fresh hot water into the system, it could potentially freeze during the winter. There's no signs that it ever has froze before. The disclosure does not mention any time it's frozen in the past. We bring these up every day, and they rarely cause a problem, but we will bring this up. It's easily correctable with a couple guys with a shovel and some crushed stone to sort of shore that pipe up. It's easily fixable. That will be one maintenance item, one spot of correction we're going to recommend in the report. I have a long video here, but
it's all right. Like to talk. Roll on, you got it.
The second part of the system, really the first part, is the septic tank. What the septic tank does is a 1,000 gallon concrete box. You're looking at the business end of the septic tank right there. And the septic tank's job is to accept everything that drains into it, and through a system of separation and baffles to allow only the cleanest waters out the other side. The septic tank is going to retain your fats, solids, greases, toilet paper, and the dirtiest of the dirty water, and hold that here and allow the cleanest water through. The septic tank is unknown when it was serviced last. We would recommend a service interval of every 3 to 5 years, depending on occupancy in the house. If you're 1 or 2 people, you can go closer to that every 5 years. If it's more fully occupied, we'd recommend every 3 years. You can't really pump the tank out too much, so really 3 to 4 years is sort of the sweet spot. But we're recommending that the septic tank is due to be pumped now. Generally speaking, in the cold winter months, it is, unless it's an emergency situation, you really should wait till the spring to service the septic tank. In our report, we will say that it is due to be pumped now. Having said that, it is better to pump it in the spring. If you can wait till then, that's great. But either way, it is due now. So that's due to be pumped now, and I'd recommend every 3 to 4 years having that septic tank pumped. You're roughly $250 to $300 for having that septic tank pumped out, and that's your only direct point of maintenance on the system ongoing. So that's here. The next step in the process is what's called a leach field, a drain field, an absorption field. Effectively, what we have is a parcel of land, which is a big sand filter with 4-inch perforated pipes and crushed stone over the top of that sand filter. We want the effluent water, which is the cleanest water from the septic tank, so the cleanest of the dirty water that you use inside, to run through the pipes and the crushed stone over that sand filter and to slowly drain down through that sand, and the sand is going to filter out and remove the contaminants from the water. By the time the water's gone through enough of that sand, it's going to re-enter the water table wherever it does, and at that point it will be potable and clean to drink. It's a very effective system. It's a very simple system, and it does basically the whole high side of your backyard. In our report, we've taken a picture which we'll overlay with a paint program showing you exactly where that leach field lays, or the drain field lays. We've used a camera to scope into that field, and we've also cored right in the middle of the backyard. We've cored down into the crushed stone right beside the center pipe in the field, and we've gotten a good look at that. It's dry, and there's no signs that it's ever had any hydraulic pressurization of the field, any staining. There's no signs it's ever had any issues before. And with these systems at this point in their life, if we're not seeing any signs, you can really forecast that this is less than halfway through its effective useful life. The area over the leach field should be maintained as a grass area. We should not introduce any roots, trees, any vegetation. We shouldn't drive anything heavy on that field. Other than that, it's a very passive system. Along with our report, we'll be putting a link to a website which sort of explains how you should treat this system going forward. And other than pumping the tank regularly, there's no additives that you need to put into the system, no Rid-X, no extra bacteria, nothing like that. You pump the septic tank, you limit what's going into your septic system to be just the necessities, no extra things. So stuff your body's broken down, and toilet paper. You limit the chemicals, you do not put a garbage disposal, but all of those things you do and don't put in, I'll put a link in the report which sort of references what are best practices as far as usage of septic systems. The big picture, we would recommend that the septic tank is due to be pumped, and the small sag in the pipe going to the septic tank would be the only other thing that is of note. Other than that, no deficiencies noted within the system. You'll get the report, and if you have any questions, you'll have my contact information and one other representative for our company's information. You can feel free, and I would urge you to give us a call. I would also urge you, if everything goes well and you get moved in, if you'd ever like us to meet you here when we're going to be in the area, we'd be happy to meet you here on a day when you're going to be here. We're also just happen to be in the area. Thank you very much, and best of luck with everything.
Hey guys, I'm Oliver with Maine Inspection. I'm part of the home inspection team doing an inspection on the property here in Sidney today, and I'm doing the roof section. So just to start with, there's quite a bit of snow up here. I have been able to get on each part of the roof structure. There is a metal roof and then some asphalt shingles as well, but there's a lot of snow on it, so that can make it really difficult on us on being able to see all the areas. Was able to make it up to the chimney and inspect up there. The flashing around the chimney looks really good, but there are some areas that could use some sealant, and I've noted those for you in the report. As well as the vast majority of the asphalt shingles that I could see look like they're in really good shape. And you probably have another 10 years roughly on those shingles as well. There is one area that I wanted to point out and kind of talk about here. It starts down below us here. What I noticed was some of the staining on the log siding right there. And so as a result, I ended up climbing up here and actually shoveling out quite a bit of snow, so we were able to see this. And what we're getting is the asphalt shingles here come down over and meet the metal roofing covering. And I'm not sure if you can see it because it's kind of dark here, but there's quite a bit of silicone sealant right here where the two come together. And it looks like they've been battling this condition now. And what's happening is there's a lot of ice, there's some heat loss through the structure, and it's creating an ice dam. And so anytime that any water runs down the roof line, it's actually backing up either underneath the shingles or in these areas of flashing. So this area of the roof is going to require more maintenance than the rest, and that may mean things like sealant around flashing. If when during raking or shoveling, if you damage any shingles, this would be an area where you'd want to make sure you're replacing them, just because of the amount of flashing and sealant types that are happening in this area.
I want to do a little about ice dams in general.
Okay. Also, there's quite a bit of areas with just ice damming in general. If you look up here, you can see the icicles. Ice damming happens when heat is lost through the structure, it melts the snow, that starts running down the roof, and then it hits an area that's cold, that's unheated, and it starts to freeze, and that's what causes these icicles. So ice damming is important to maintain. Really the only solution for that is homeowner maintenance and keeping the snow at least off the first 2 feet of all the roofing structures, and that will help to prevent or eliminate ice dams. And you should be careful when you're doing that, using an appropriate roof rake or something, or a plastic shovel, and try to keep that clear. Once you get ice dams here, they're hard to eliminate, so most people end up going up with a hammer or a chisel and trying to chisel away the ice, and that can just damage your roof. So the preventative measure of keeping it shoveled off in the beginning is really the solution to that.
This is the area of the wall that Oliver was talking about where there's quite a bit of moisture staining down this inside corner on the log siding. This is a log siding area, not the actual true logs. So some of these logs could be pulled off. Any repairs that need to be made underneath can be done, and then it can be replaced pretty easily, unlike an actual log area. But you can see areas like this where there's actually standing moisture running down. It's coming down from the ice dam up above. It's kicking out in this area right here, and we're seeing it come out of the logs, but there could be more moisture inside that we're not able to see. So this is an area you want to have evaluated and make sure that everything's flashed properly and that you keep all that snow cleared out of there.
So here's a quick video about log houses in general, and how to maintain some of the things that you'll run into. And log houses can be susceptible to things like insects or moisture intrusion, just because it's a solid wood structure, and wood is susceptible to those two main things here in Maine. So one of the ones we're going to look at here, if you can see, there's cracking that can happen inside the structure of the logs. And typically when it's really the most concerning is when it's up here at the top and you get water that runs down and then it can drip into the crack and go inside the log. Here in the front, this isn't terrible. It's not really a super
concerning.
Concerning. Can you edit this stuff? All right. So this one here isn't super concerning because it's right on the front of the log, but what they've done is they've added sealant inside that crack, and that prevents the moisture intrusion into the log. And that's actually part of just general maintenance that you'll encounter by owning a log home, is you'll want to make sure every year that all the cracks like this are sealed up with sealant, and as well as the finish coating, which this is a solid body covering stain, as well as that finish coating is updated and maintained as well, because you want to keep the moisture out of the logs and you want to keep insects away from the logs. And actually insects prefer logs that actually have moisture in them. They're easier for them to make a home there. So maintaining the finish covering and then sealing, again, I can't reiterate that part enough because water can get in these cracks. Sealing all the cracks and maintaining that is really important.
Okay guys, Jason again. I'm out here in the garage, the attached garage. One thing, Jim, that you had mentioned was the drainage in the garage area. You said it looked like it had been added on after the fact, and you're absolutely right. So this addition here, as well as the garage, was all added on after. This structure here would have been probably an exterior chimney that was originally on the home that got eliminated when the garage got put on. But one condition here is this settlement that's taken place on the floor here back towards that chimney area. I'll take you guys over here. You can see this discoloration line right here. So this is where the slab was originally poured when the garage was built, and this is where the slab is now, and that's about a 4.5-inch drop right there. So this area of the garage also is kind of covered with this mat. It's tough to see, but over here near the door you can see there's a pretty significant crack right here that appears to run back behind all this flooring. It's tough to see much because there's a lot of belongings in here, but there's some significant settling in this area. So I would definitely have this area evaluated by a concrete contractor. Have them take a look. Maybe it was poor compacting at the time. Maybe it's all of this downhill drainage running into the garage, or underneath the slab that's eroding away the soil below that's allowing it to settle. But regardless, it should be evaluated, correct drainage installed, and repaired so that it doesn't get any worse.
Hey guys, here's a quick video about some of the water filtration system stuff that's in the basement here. I know you had some questions about it. So basically, just to give you a quick rundown, there's 2 tanks in here, a smaller tank and a larger tank, and it's actually what's inside those tanks that actually filter out the water. Because I can't see it and there's no record of it exactly, I'm kind of a little bit taking an educated guess here, but based on the setup, I'll do the best I can. So this system right here is most likely for the pH of the water. If the pH is low, that means it's acidic and it can corrode away things like copper pipe. And based on some of these drip marks you can see here, where you can see the green typically indicates that it would have a lower pH coming right out of the pressure tank. So this system most likely has a media that's designed to bring the pH up. After that system, it goes through a larger backwashing system. Because there's no brine tank here, and most likely this system is for iron or sulfur, or a combination of both. The best way to find out would be to call the guys on this tank and see what their maintenance schedule is, how much it costs for maintenance, and if they can give you information on what these tanks are installed for. A picture of this tag is in the report for you, just for your information and for maintenance purposes. But most likely it's for pH and then iron or sulfur.
RO upstairs.
Oh, and there's an RO system upstairs. It sounds like that's for treating arsenic. RO is the point of use, so you're going to want to use the specific faucet associated with that system. It's my advice that you use that for drinking water, cooking, essentially any water that you'll be ingesting. You wouldn't worry about it for brushing teeth and things like that, but for cooking and drinking, you're going to want to use that as well. That does have a limited supply, usually between 3 to 4 gallons a day, so if you typically use more water than that for cooking or drinking, you may consider storing a few gallons before you go to bed at night, fill up a gallon of water, put it in the refrigerator, and then you're kind of beating the system by having some water on standby. And that system, I'm not sure if it's the same company, but you may want to look into changing the filters on that about every 12 to 18 months.
Alright guys, so just finished up the flow test on the well. The well is located underneath this beautiful lighthouse structure here. To the left of the driveway, this is the well. Cap here is labeled at 360 feet of well depth with 130 feet of steel casing. This is the steel casing here, so this goes 130 feet to the ground, hits bedrock, and then bedrock the rest of the way to the full 360 feet. And it was stamped at 5 gallons per minute recovery when it was drilled in 03. So this is a machine I use. I put a tape measure down into the well to measure the water level and measure it as it drops down, as I flow water, how far it drops, and then I continue to measure excuse me, as the water comes back up after I stop running it. So we base it, the amount of water that we run on, as 50 gallons per person per day, with a typical occupancy of 2 people per room. So in this house you'd have 2 people, 2 bedrooms, or 200 gallons of water for a normal day consumption. So over the course of 60 minutes, I ran a little over 202 gallons of water. It averaged around 4 gallons a minute flow, which is, it's limited by the ability of the spigot. So 4 gallons a minute is fine. I'm sure it's capable of more than that, but that's all I could get out of that particular spigot. And then it recovered, let me check the recovery rate. We recovered 7 feet in 2 minutes time, so that would be 3.5 feet per minute with 1.5 gallons per foot. I'm doing some quick math in my head. That would be 3, 6, 7, 8. I'll figure out the math. It's been a long day, but you'll have that in your well recovery report. It's more than the 5 that is labeled on the cap, I believe, off the top of my head, which is great. So it's recovering at a really good rate. It had no problem flowing the daily consumption, average consumption for this home. So that's a great flow test. Everything looks really good, and you'll receive a written report on that.